My sister set me up with her friend just to humiliate me. She said it was just a prank. I exposed her cruel game to everyone and left her friendless. This story is about my sister, Verity, and how she took things way too far. It's also about how I fought back when I realized I wasn't just the target of her joke, I was the joke. Let me explain. I grew up in Lakeville, Minnesota, a pretty quiet town where nothing much happens. You know the kind of place, everyone knows everyone, and your business is never really your own. My family seemed normal from the outside. Dad worked as a mechanic, and Mom stayed home to raise me and Verity. But normal was just a cover for the dysfunction bubbling underneath. Verity was the golden child. She was beautiful, popular, and had the kind of charm that made everyone want to be around her. Teachers loved her, neighbors adored her, and my parents couldn't stop singing her praises. Me? I was the nerdy, awkward kid who never quite fit in. I wasn't unpopular, but I was invisible, just the weird younger brother tinkering in the garage or reading science books at family gatherings. Verity was always the star, and she liked to remind me of that. When we were younger, it was little things, teasing me about my clothes, making fun of my interests. But as we got older, it got worse. She started treating me like I was a walking punchline, and her friends followed her lead. I guess I should have seen this whole thing coming, but I didn't. I wanted to believe she cared about me, even if we were different. Turns out, I was wrong. It all started a few months ago when Verity told me she had someone she wanted me to meet. At the time, I thought she was being nice, like maybe she felt bad for how she treated me growing up. I'd just gotten out of a rough breakup, and I wasn't exactly in a hurry to start dating again, but Verity kept pushing. You need to get back out there, Basil, she said, using my full name in that mocking way she always did. Tessa's perfect for you. Tessa was one of Verity's friends. I'd met her a couple of times before at parties and town events. She was stunning, like, way out of my league. She had this fiery red hair, piercing green eyes, and a smile that could stop traffic. When Verity said she wanted to set us up, I thought maybe she was actually trying to help me for once. I should have known better. After some convincing, I agreed to let Verity arrange a date. She set us up at this cozy little Italian restaurant downtown. I spent hours agonizing over what to wear, what to say, how not to make a fool of myself. When the night finally came, I was a nervous wreck, but Tessa made me feel at ease. She was sweet, funny, and genuinely seemed interested in me. For the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. The first date went so well that we planned a second one. This time, Tessa invited me over to her place for a movie night. I was excited but nervous, like maybe things were moving too fast. Still, I didn't want to overthink it. I picked up a bottle of wine and some snacks and headed to her apartment, hoping for a relaxed, fun evening. The moment I walked in, I knew something was wrong. There were cameras. Not just one or two, but 3, set up on tripods around the room, pointed directly at the couch. Verity was there, standing in the middle of the room with her phone in her hand, grinning like she'd just won the lottery. Surprise, she said, laughing so hard she could barely get the word out. Oh my God, Basil, this is gold. I froze. Tessa stood off to the side, looking awkward but not exactly surprised. That's when it hit me, this wasn't a real date. None of it was. The restaurant, the movie night, the connection I thought I had with Tessa, it was all part of Verity's prank. Verity started talking, explaining the whole thing like it was the funniest joke in the world. She'd set me up with Tessa just to humiliate me. The cameras were there to capture my reaction when they told me the truth, when they revealed that Tessa was never interested in me at all, that she was only going along with this because Verity asked her to. Come on, Basil, Verity said, still laughing. Don't be such a buzzkill. It's just a prank. You'll laugh about it later. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I felt my face go hot, and my hands started shaking. I looked at Tessa, hoping she'd say something, anything, but she just looked away. That hurt more than anything. I thought she liked me. I thought maybe, for once, I wasn't just the weird kid in the background. But it was all fake. I turned around and walked out. Verity called after me, but I didn't look back. By the time I got home, I was shaking with a mix of anger and humiliation. How could my own sister do this to me? How could anyone think this was funny? For days, I couldn't stop replaying the scene in my head. I didn't talk to Verity, and she didn't try to talk to me. My parents noticed something was wrong, but I couldn't bring myself to tell them. It was too humiliating. I didn't want to give Verity the satisfaction of knowing how much she'd hurt me. Then, I remembered the cameras. Verity had recorded everything. I knew her well enough to know she wasn't going to keep the footage to herself. She'd probably planned to post it online, maybe even turn it into some kind of viral video. That thought made my blood boil. She wasn't just trying to humiliate me in private, she wanted to make me a public joke. I couldn't let that happen. I wouldn't. It took me a few sleepless nights and every ounce of technical skill I had, but I managed to get my hands on the footage. Let's just say being a nerd finally worked in my favor. Once I had the videos, I didn't just delete them. I backed them up. I watched every second of them, not because I wanted to relive the humiliation, but because I wanted to make sure I had everything I needed to turn the tables on Verity. I wasn't just going to delete her prank. I was going to expose her for who she really was. I spent the next week planning everything. I wanted to make sure Verity couldn't weasel her way out of this. She'd spent years making me the joke, and this was my chance to show everyone who she really was. I wasn't just angry, I was determined. First, I made a new video. I used the footage from her cameras, but instead of letting it play as she intended, I re-edited it. I focused on her cruelty, the way she laughed, the way she mocked me, and the way she brushed off Tessa's unease like it was nothing. I added text to explain what had happened, how she'd set me up, how she'd lied to me, and how she wanted to humiliate me for her own entertainment. I made sure it wasn't just me talking. I included the raw audio where Tessa tried to tell her to stop, and Verity told her, "Relax, it's just Basil. He's used to this." That line stuck with me. It summed up how she'd treated me my whole life, like I was some punching bag for her amusement. Once the video was ready, I uploaded it. Not on a random YouTube channel or some throwaway account, no, I wanted it to hit where it hurt the most. I posted it on our town's Facebook group. This was the same group where Verity loved to post about her charity work, her social events, and her perfect life. She had dozens of friends in that group, people who thought she was this sweet, charming girl. I wanted them to see the truth. The video spread like wildfire. Within hours, it had hundreds of views and dozens of comments. People were horrified. They couldn't believe the girl they thought was so kind could do something so cruel. Some of her closest friends started commenting, saying they had no idea she was like this. Others said they weren't surprised. Apparently, Verity had a history of being mean-spirited, but she was so good at hiding it that most people brushed it off. Tessa even commented. She apologized publicly, saying she regretted going along with the prank and that she'd only done it because Verity pressured her. "I should have said no," she wrote. "Basil, I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve any of this." That was the final nail in Verity's coffin. Her reputation crumbled overnight. People stopped responding to her posts. Her friends stopped inviting her to events. She tried to defend herself in the comments, saying it was just a joke and that I was overreacting, but nobody bought it. The video spoke for itself. Verity wasn't just humiliated, she was furious. She stormed into my room the day after the video went live, yelling at me to take it down. "You've ruined my life," she screamed, her face red with anger. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" I stayed calm. "I just showed people the truth," I said. "If you don't like how you look in the video, maybe you shouldn't have done it." She sputtered, trying to come up with something to say, but she had nothing. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. That was the last time we spoke. The fallout wasn't just social. Verity's job at a local event planning company took a hit too. A few of her clients saw the video and decided they didn't want someone like her representing their events. She didn't lose her job completely, but her boss put her on probation and took away some of her responsibilities. For someone like Verity, who thrived on being the center of attention, it was devastating. As for me, things started looking up. People in town started treating me differently, not like I was some pathetic loser, but like I was someone who stood up for himself. Tessa reached out privately to apologize again. She even asked if we could grab coffee sometime, but I turned her down. I appreciated her apology, but I wasn't interested in rekindling anything. She'd been part of the prank, and I couldn't forget that. My parents were upset at first. They didn't like that I'd aired our family's dirty laundry in public, but even they couldn't defend Verity. My mom eventually admitted that Verity had always gotten away with too much and that maybe this was the wake-up call she needed. Dad didn't say much, but he did tell me he was proud of me for standing up for myself. Verity hasn't recovered socially. Most of her friends have cut her off, and she doesn't post much online anymore. She's still angry with me, but I don't care. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm not living in her shadow. I'm no longer the joke. She is. Do I feel bad about what I did? Honestly, not really. She made her bed, and now she has to lie in it. I didn't ruin her life, she did. All I did was show people who she really was. And you know what? It feels good.